Hey guys, Bison here, bringing you another Dragonflight Unholy video. We've got significant buffs coming next reset, Bit surprised, to be honest, but I'm also incredibly happy. As always, let's take a look what the buffs actually are, break them down, talk about what's the effective gain and the impact to our rotation, and in this case, stat choices. Let's just jump straight into it before I actually move any further. If you just want to know how much of a percentage upgrade this is, it's around 8% in single target and roughly 4% in AoE. Those are kind of like, ballpark numbers. So if that was everything you want to know, thank you for watching the video. Now actually let's talk about the changes. So we have raised dead damage increased by 10%, Army of the Dead damage increased by 10%, Scourge Strike and Clawing Shadows damage increased by 20%, Soul Reaper increased by 15%, specifically on Unholy. And then we also have that Gargoyle cast speed that changed. So it went from 2 seconds to 2.5 seconds, and it was increased by 25% when it comes to damage. Now let's take a look. So what do the developers say about this? At high haste levels, it was possible for some Gargoyle to lose cast of Gargoyle Strike. To help remedy that, we are reducing the cast speed of Gargoyle Strike to 2.5 seconds. While increasing the damage done to compensate for a slower cast time. We're also making some targeted tuning adjustments to Unholy to increase the damage outside of their 3-minute cooldowns. Alright, so let's start with Gargoyles. What's going on here? Why are they increasing the cast speed? And what will be the effect? Turns out, Gargoyle has quite the stutter when it casts. This essentially means that when it finishes a cast, it doesn't immediately start the next one. This becomes an issue when we go above 100% haste. So whenever the Gargoyle GCD or Gargoyle cast time goes to be below 1 second, we start getting this issue. You can see here, so this is a log from my first day raid, right? Mythic Rasagath. You can see there that it does like 2 casts in a row, and then it kind of waits a little bit, and do 2 casts in a row, and then waits a little bit. It's like a significant stutter. Like that little gap, you could almost fit in an entire extra cast in there. So the damage of Gargoyle is reduced by like 30% at high haste levels, which is obviously an issue. And it seems like instead of actually fixing that, they've put a band-aid on top of it. What this means is that instead of getting the stutter at 100% haste, we will now get it at 150% haste. This is generally really good. So starting off, if you just look at the damage, right, going to 2.5, going from 2 to 2.5 means that we get 20% less casts overall, but increasing the damage to 25% means that the overall damage should be the same, right, if you just go by those numbers. Now, this is an effective buff though, because previously we didn't scale that well with haste above 100%, right? We're supposed to double dip on haste at that point, but the stutter made it so that we didn't scale that well. With this change, right, instead of starting to scale a bit worse at 100% haste, we'll start scaling worse at 150% haste. So we get a huge amount of extra scaling there between 100 and 150% haste. So that is a big buff as well. And I think it's one of the reasons why this is such a big impact, right? We get that extra haste scaling going. This does have an impact on your stats, right? There's been quite a lot of discussion about low haste Unholy, right? You can kind of get around this by simply not having a lot of haste, meaning that with your buffs and everything, you won't get to the level where it starts to stutter. Now, before this change, that wasn't really something you could do that easily. Like, you need a really low amount of haste to not go above 100% with your cooldowns, especially with like if you get PI, there's no way of you doing it, and if you have like berserking, all that. Anyway, and with these changes, right, you can now effectively target. I don't want to go above 150% haste, kinda. If you get Bloodlust, if you have Orc Berserking, if you have PI, there's no way of not getting above 150% haste. Like currently, with my build here, I get 238%, so just way too much. and that's still going to be the case going forward. So at like full burst levels, you won't be able to do anything about this. However, for like your secondary burst windows, we can definitely try and target below 150% haste. For me personally, that means dropping haste a little bit, so I will go down to around 20% haste, which means that my secondary burst windows won't go above 150%, and I should therefore be able to avoid the stutter. And I think this is worthwhile. When you do simulations, right, sims do take this into consideration, and I could actually see that when I simmed with PI, I could actually swap all my gems from haste mastery to mastery crit, and be like roughly the same amount of damage. It was a bit lower still, but roughly the same. I need to double check with Tesnak, you know. By the way, huge shout out to him. I'm not sure what we would do without him. He's the one that kind of puts all this in simulations and immediately gives us a good number to base our kind of analysis on. So thank you very much, man. Anyway, it's a tricky one. I feel like with stats, you know, they aren't that impactful. So if you do play around with them a little bit, maybe drop a little bit of haste. It does give you more AoE, right? And it can actually prevent the stutter. I will give this a go, see what it feels like. I might do an update video telling you how it went, but generally I think with these changes, I do recommend dropping a little bit of haste so we can avoid the stutter without the bloodlust, or without PO, for instance, that kind of thing. Alright, so that's Gargoyle. Overall, band-aid solution, big impact on haste scaling, meaning that we will have a significant increase. I think our Gargoyles will just be much bigger nowadays, right? Because we're going to mostly avoid the stutter, but have the increased damage. So we'll see. Now, the other bit, right? Increasing damage outside of cooldowns. So we have, as I said, so it's Race Dead, Army, Scourge, Long Shadows, and Soul Reaper. So all of those, except Army, are like what we usually hit outside of cooldowns, where the majority of damage comes from. So we're definitely going to help increase that portion. I think this is generally healthy. A lot of people dislike the fact that our damage is so incredibly focused on our burst windows, and you know, hitting the boss outside of them kind of feels like you're not doing anything at all. So I'm also kind of happy about that. You might be confused about the Army of Dead change, because that obviously increases our burst as well, with Army being a big part of it. However, Army of the Dead, that's also coming from Apocalypse, so the Apocalypse ghouls. So this essentially means that, okay, sure, we buff our opening burst, but we also buff all our Apocalypse windows going after that point, which is good, which means that we have a bit better secondary burst. Overall, as I said before, 8% overall is going to be huge, mate. I was raiding on Terrors, pure single target fight. I was nearly topping without PI last reset. Did have some lucky procs, yes, and it was a very good kill timer. But just imagine, you know, 80% buff on that, we're going to be blasting, you know. I'm really excited about these buffs. Can't wait to just go in and pump, beat everyone else. So, happy. I wish they could just fix the Gargoyle buff properly though. Might even, you know, why didn't it not increase it to like 3 seconds instead? So that we actually can get around it properly. I don't know. I do like that they, you know, did something to help, but I feel like in the future we need to actually fix this properly, so that we don't have to care about like, okay, I can't go above this level of haze because then my cooldown is going to break. You know, it doesn't sound very fun. Right, now I'm going to go on and put on my Doom cap here, right? Because we need to talk about 10.1, right? People say that I don't doom enough, but I feel like it's time now to have a frank discussion about this. These buffs obviously help, but moving into 10.1 and not having a good replacement for Posser Box is just not going to work well for Unholy. I feel like they have to do something about this. I can foresee a future where Unholy is going to start out really well, and then the fact that we can't upgrade our best trinket is just going to mean that over time, everyone is going to overtake us, right? What they can do is just keep giving us these buffs to keep helping us forward, but it's going to be reactionary, which is not what I want to see. All right, something has to be done that allows Unholy to get a suitable replacement for Posser Box. That's the core issue there. If we don't get that, we're gonna struggle. So devs, if you watch this, please, do consider looking at the current trinkets and thinking about something where Unholy can go to the next tier, looking forward to a unused trinket upgrade. That's everything, essentially. Now, enough with dooming. That's not generally what I do. Let me know what do you think about all this. Leave a comment down below. Upvote, downvote, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.